James Madison Jr. was an American statesman, diplomat, and founding father. He served as the fourth President of the United States from 1809 to 1817. Madison is hailed as the father of the Constitution for his pivotal role in drafting and promoting the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights. Born March 16, 1751. Belle Grove. Died June 28, 1836, James Madison's Montpelier Station, Virginia, United States. Presidential term: March 4, 1809, March 4, 1817. Party: Democratic Republican Party. The powers delegated by the proposed Constitution to the federal government are few and defined. Those which are to remain in the state governments are numerous and indefinite. Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. Where we see the same faults followed regularly by the same misfortunes, we may reasonably think that if we could have known the first we might have avoided the others. To promote the progress of science and useful arts, by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. The circulation of confidence is better than the circulation of money. Experience is the oracle of truth. Learned institutions ought to be favorite objects with every free people. They throw that light over the public mind which is the best security against crafty and dangerous encroachments on the public liberty. The means of defense against foreign danger historically have become the instruments of tyranny at home. As a man is said to have a right to his property, he may be equally said to have a property in his rights. The operations of the federal government will be most extensive and important in times of war and danger, those of the state governments in times of peace and security. If tyranny and oppression come to this land, it will be in the guise of fighting a foreign enemy. Liberty may be endangered by the abuses of liberty as well as by the abuses of power. Let me recommend the best medicine in the world: a long journey and a mild season through a pleasant country in easy stages. Liberty may be endangered by the abuse of liberty, but also by the abuse of power. Had every Athenian citizen been a Socrates, every Athenian assembly would still have been a mob. A good government implies two things: first, fidelity to the object of government, which is the happiness of the people; secondly, a knowledge of the means by which that object can be best attained. Of all the enemies to public liberty, war is perhaps the most to be dreaded because it comprises and develops the germ of every other. It was impossible to confine a government to the exercise of express powers. There must necessarily be admitted powers by implication, unless the Constitution descended to recount every minutiae. No government, any more than an individual, will long be respected without being truly respectable, nor be truly respectable without possessing a certain portion of order and stability. The best way to avoid danger is to be in a capacity to withstand it. The censorial power is in the people over the government, and not in the government over the people. Since the general civilization of mankind, I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of the freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments of those in power, than by violent and sudden usurpations. We should never think of separation except for repeated and enormous violations. Of all the enemies to public liberty, war is, perhaps, the most to be dreaded, because it comprises and develops the germ of every other. What is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. And if novelties are to be shunned, believe me, the most alarming of all novelties, the most wild of all projects, the most rash of all attempts, is that of rending us in pieces, in order to preserve our liberties, and promote our happiness. It is a principle incorporated into the settled policy of America, that is, peace is better than war, war is better than tribute. Quotes. Knowledge will forever govern ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governors must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. Ambition must be made to counteract ambition. The interest of the man must be connected with the constitutional rights of the place. It may be a reflection on human nature, that such devices should be necessary to control the abuses of government. It is the reason, alone, of the public, that ought to control and regulate the government. The passions ought to be controlled and regulated by the government. Respect for character is always diminished in proportion to the number among whom the blame or praise is to be divided. Conscience, the only remaining tie, is known to be inadequate in individuals. In large numbers, little is to be expected from it. No axiom is more clearly established in law or in reason than wherever the end is required, the means are authorized. Wherever a general power to do a thing is given, every particular power for doing it is included. Despotism can only exist in darkness, and there are too many lights now in the political firmament, to permit it to remain anywhere, as it has heretofore done, almost everywhere. No man is allowed to be a judge in his own cause, because his interest would certainly bias his judgment, and, not improbably, corrupt his integrity. Justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been and ever will be pursued until it be obtained, or until liberty be lost in the pursuit.